By defense attorney. And during that search at Hood's place, was meth manufacturing equipment found? Yes. In effect, an operating lab. Is that so? Correct. A meth lab? Yes. And was methamphetamine found? I believe so. As a result, Hood and McGrevy, who was there, were both arrested. Is that right? Yes. And both prosecuted? Yes. Did Chad ever tell you that did he tell you before the 29th, a couple of days earlier, that after McVee went into custody, he, Chad, had been over at Hood's, had seen all this stuff there? No. Did he ever tell you? No. Into February, did Chad McDonald ever tell you that he had gotten a connection to buy methamphetamine in Norwalk? No. Did he ever tell you that he met somebody by the name of Louie who lived down in Norwalk, and through Louie, Chad was able to score substantial quantities of meth? No. Did he ever tell you that he was going down to Norwalk to buy meth? No. Did he ever tell you he was taking his girlfriend down there with him while he was going to buy meth? No. Did he tell you he was leaving her alone in a house down there to party and smoke meth while he went off on his drug runs? Objection sustained. Did he ever mention Doug Bullington to you? No. Did you know anything about a Valentine's Day transaction in which Chad supplied Doug with a substantial amount of meth? No. Did he ever tell you about the $1,200 drug deal he had with Bullington? No. Sometime about the middle of February 1998, was Chad arrested again by Brea police officers? Yes. Was that on February 19, 1998? Yes. And was he arrested again in possession of methamphetamine? Yes. And as a result of that, was Chad terminated as an informant? Yes. And that's because that arrest violated the conditions of his employment. Is that right? Yes. Conditions of his service, let's put it that way. Yes. Merely being in possession of the drug violated the conditions. Right? Right. All of these other things I mentioned, if you had known about them, what would you have done? Terminated his services. You would have arrested him, wouldn't you have? Yes. To use the parlance, you would have busted his ass, wouldn't you have? Yes. But you didn't know, did you? No, I didn't. Did you communicate to Chad in some fashion the termination of his services? Yes. How was that done? Over the phone, directly with Chad? Yes. Do you recall when that was? The night he was arrested on the 19th. Because the officers who arrested him had contacted you. Is that right? Yes. And that's because Chad was trying to tell them that the meth he had on him on that occasion was meth that he had acquired while working for you? Yes. And you said to the officers, no way, that's just not so? That's correct. You said to them, he's lying, book him. I'd object, Your Honor. Sustained. All right. And so you talked to Chad on the phone? Yes. And you told him he's through? Objection. Asked and answered. Sustained. All right. No further questions. Mr. Ramsayer, thank you. Good morning, sir. You've been working in the area of narcotics for quite some time. Is that fair to say? Yes. And a person who sells narcotics, is it your experience that they only have one source of their narcotics? No. As someone who is in the area and moves in that narcotic society, they're constantly meeting other people who do the drugs, who sell the drugs, and are constantly developing new sources for their ability to get the drug. Is that fair to say? Yes. Is it kind of a fluid arrangement? If someone gets arrested, you look for someone to fill the void. Is that right? Yes. Now, with respect to Chad McDonald, in this case, you don't know anything about 14817 Howell Court in Norwalk, that's right. If you had gotten information about 14817 Howell Court in Norwalk as a Brea officer, would you have investigated it? Yes. Would you have turned that over to the Sheriff's Department, or would you have kept it in your jurisdiction? Most likely would have turned it over to the sheriffs, because that is LA County, right? Yes. You work for the city of Brea? Yes. So the same way Orange came to you guys to work something in Yorba Linda, you would have gone to the sheriffs for them to work something in this area? Yes. You never did that in this matter? No. Looking at the defendants, you don't know anything of the defendants, do you? No, sir. I have nothing further. Miss Miller, no questions. Mr. Leonard, good morning, Detective. Good morning. Detective, when Chad McDonald and his mother signed the guidelines and special consent form on January the 6th of '98, did you ever inform Chad McDonald and his mother that by being an informant there is a possibility that you could be killed? Well, Your Honor, I just object to the relevance of that. Sustained. Did you ever tell Chad McDonald anything in terms of the fact that being an informant, that your life would be in danger? I just object to the relevance. Sustained. Have you dealt with informants before, Detective? Yes. A dangerous business, so to say? Yes. And dangerous to the standpoint that if you're an informant and the drug dealers that you're informing on, or could inform on, found out that you were an informant, your life could be in danger, right? Possibly. Thank you. I have no further questions. Mr. Latner, just briefly. Good morning, sir. You've been working in the area of narcotics for quite some time. Is that fair to say? Yes. And a person who sells narcotics, is it your experience that they only have one source of their narcotics? No. Someone who is in that area and moves in that narcotic society, they're constantly meeting other people who do the drugs, who sell the drugs, and are constantly developing new sources for their ability to get the drug. Is that fair to say? Yes. It is kind of a fluid arrangement. If someone gets arrested, you look for someone to fill the void. Is that right? Yes. Now, with respect to Chad McDonald, in this case, you don't know anything about 14817 Howell Court in Norwalk? That's right. If you had gotten information about 14817 Howell Court in Norwalk as a Brea officer, would you have investigated it? Yes. Would you have turned that over to the Sheriff's Department, or would you have kept it in your jurisdiction? Most likely would have turned it over to sheriffs, because that is LA County, right? Yes. You work for the city of Brea? Yes. So the same way Orange came to you guys to work something in Yorba Linda, you would have gone to the sheriffs for them to work something in this area? Yes. You never did that in this matter? No. Looking at the defendants, you don't know anything of the defendants, do you? No, sir. I have nothing further. Miss Miller, no questions. Mr. Leonard, good morning, Detective. Good morning, Detective. When Chad McDonald and his mother signed the guidelines and special consent form on January the 6th of '98, did you ever inform Chad McDonald and his mother that by being an informant, there is a possibility that you could be killed? Well, Your Honor, I just object to the relevance of that. Sustained. Did you ever tell Chad McDonald anything in terms of the fact that being an informant, that your life could be in danger? I just object to the relevance. Sustained. Have you dealt with informants before, Detective? Yes. A dangerous business, so to say? Yes. And dangerous to the standpoint that if you're an informant and the drug dealers that you're informing on, or could inform on, found out that you were an informant, your life could be in danger, right? Possibly. Thank you. I have no further questions. Mr. Latner, just briefly. All right, let's try it one last time. would make for long schooling, huh? And during that search at Hood's place, was meth manufacturing equipment found? Yes. In effect, an operation lab, is that so? Correct, a meth lab? Yes. And was methamphetamine found? I believe so. As a result, Hood and McGrevy, who was there, were both arrested. Is that right? Yes. And both prosecuted? Yes. Did Chad ever tell you that a few days, did he tell you before the 29th, a couple of days earlier, that after McKee went into custody, he, Chad, had been over at Hood's, had seen all this stuff there? No. Did he ever tell you? No. Into February, did Chad McDonald ever tell you that he had gotten a connection to buy methamphetamine in Norwalk? No. Did he ever tell you that he met somebody by the name of Louie who lived down in Norwalk, and through Louie, Chad was able to score substantial quantities of meth? No. Did he ever tell you that he was going down to Norwalk to buy meth? No. Did he ever tell you he was taking his girlfriend down there with him while he was going to buy meth? No. Did he ever tell you he was leaving her alone in a house down there to party and smoke meth while he went off on his drug runs? Objection. Sustained. Did he ever mention Doug Bullington to you? No. Did you know anything about a Valentine's Day transaction in which Chad supplied Doug with a substantial amount of meth? No. Did he ever tell you about the $1,200 drug deal he had with Bullington? No. Sometime about the middle of February 1998, was Chad arrested again by the Brea police officers? Yes. Was that on February 19, 1998? Yes. And was he arrested again in possession of methamphetamine? Yes. And as a result of that, was Chad terminated as an informant? Yes. And that's because that arrest violated the conditions of his employment. Is that right? Yes. Conditions of his service, let's put it that way. Yes. Merely being in possession of the drug violated the conditions, correct? Yes. All of these other things I mentioned, if you had known about them, what would you have done? Terminated his services. You would have arrested him, wouldn't you have? Yes. To use the parlance, you would have busted his ass, wouldn't you have? Yes. But you didn't know, did you? No, I didn't. Did you communicate to Chad in some fashion the termination of his services? Yes. How was that done? Over the phone. Directly with Chad? Yes. Do you recall when that was? The night he was arrested on the 19th. Because the officers who arrested him had contacted you. Is that right? Yes. And that's because Chad was trying to tell them that the meth he had on him on that occasion was meth that he had acquired while working for you. Yes. And you said to the officers, no way, that's just not so. That's correct. You said to them, he's lying. Book him. I object, Your Honor. Sustained. All right. And so you talked to Chad on the phone? Yes. And you told him he's through? Objection asked and answered. Sustained. All right. No further questions. Mr. Ramsayer, thank you. Good morning, sir. You've been working in the area of narcotics for quite some time. Is that fair to say? Yes. And a person who sells narcotics, is it your experience that they only have one source of their narcotics? No. Someone who is in the area and moves in that narcotic society, they're constantly meeting other people who do the drugs, who sell the drugs, and are developing new sources for their ability to get the drug. Is that fair to say? Yes. Is it kind of a fluid arrangement? If someone gets arrested, you look for someone to fill the void. Is that right? Yes. Now, with respect to Chad McDonald, in this case, you don't know anything about 14817 Howell Court in Norwalk. That's right. If you had gotten information about 14817 Howell Court in Norwalk as a Brea officer, would you have investigated it? Yes. Would you have turned that over to the Sheriff's Department, or would you have kept it in your jurisdiction? Most likely would have turned it over to the Sheriff's, because that is LA County, right? Yes. You work for the city of Brea? Yes. So the same way Orange came to you guys to work something in Yorba Linda, you would have gone to the Sheriff's for them to work something in this area? Yes. You never did that in this matter? No. Looking at the defendants, you don't know anything of the defendants, do you? No, sir. I have nothing further. Miss Miller, no questions. Mr. Leonard, good morning, Detective. Good morning, Detective. When Chad McDonald and his mother signed the guidelines and a special consent form on January the 6th of '98, Did you ever inform Chad McDonald and his mother that by being an informant, there is a possibility that you could be killed? Well, Your Honor, I just object to the relevance of that. Sustained. Did you ever tell Chad McDonald anything in terms of the fact that being an informant, that your life could be in danger? I just object to the relevance. Sustained. Have you dealt with informants before, Detective? Yes. A dangerous business, so to say? Yes. And dangerous to the standpoint that if you're an informant and the drug dealers that you're informing on or could inform on found out that you were an informant, your life could be in danger, right? Possibly. Thank you. I have no further questions. Mr. Latner, just briefly. All right, let's try another one. And we're women too. You know how that goes. Okay, one more time. Sir, would you merely state your name again for the record? My name is Brian McKee. All right. Mr. Latner? Yes. Mr. McKee, in about January of 1997, were you arrested for some drug-related charges? Yeah. Did you bail out? Did I bail out? Or get released on your own recognizance? I bailed out. Were you out on bail on that pending case for all of 1997? No, I wasn't. Sometime in 97, did you go back into custody? Yeah, I was thrown back in for missing a court date. And did you get back out again? About 3 months later. And what part of 97 was that? Summertime. So that by the autumn you were back out? Yeah, roughly. And then on January 23rd, 1998, did you go into custody on a plea agreement in connection with that case? Yes, I did. As part of that plea agreement, did you then do the better part of a year in jail? Yes. So that was from January 23rd continuously until whenever you got out? Is that right? Yeah. When did you get out? I believe July 1st. And you're now on probation as a result of that case? Yes, I am. Nothing further. Mr. Ramsayer, sir, you were in custody through most of 1998. Is that correct? Yes. So you're not aware of any events that took place at 14817 Howell Court, the end of February, beginning of March 1998? No, I wasn't. Thank you. I have nothing further. Miss Miller, no questions. Mr. Leonard, no questions. All right. Sir, thank you. You may step down. Call Mr. Don McCluckey. The investigator will get him. Your Honor, may we approach a moment? Do you need the reporter? I don't think so. 180 for voice for 5 minutes. Question by plaintiff's attorney. Mrs. Baker, placing before you 4 photographs which have just been marked as People's 3 for identification. Do you recognize those photographs? Yes. Are those black and white prints of the photographs that were taken 2 days after, approximately 2 days after the events? That's not her testimony, Your Honor. Today she didn't say when she took them. I object to the form of the question, Your Honor. Well, it's a problem of interrupting. Before the question is asked, I'll withdraw the question, Your Honor. Just reframe it. Are those the photographs that counsel asked you about yesterday on cross-examination? Yes. And are those the photographs, the black and white prints we've been talking about today? Yes. When were those photographs taken? Just a few days after. And who took the photographs? My husband and my mother-in-law and myself. Did you yourself take some? Yes. Which photographs did you take? The one of my husband. And who took the photograph of you? My husband and my mother-in-law. All right. And do those photographs accurately show your injuries on the day that they were taken? Yes. And did your injuries look any different in any way several days later when the photographs were taken than the day in question? Well, they started getting lighter. Did the wound change in color in some way? Yes. How did it change? Well, they went from black and blue to green and yellow. All right. Those are black and white photographs, are they not? Yes. Your Honor, may I pass these among the jury at this time? They've just been identified. Any objection? There will be no objection. Receive them into evidence. Very well. Thank you, Your Honor. Did you get the wounds in those photographs by being beaten up by your husband, Mrs. Baker? No. Does your husband beat you up? No. Did you ever tell anybody your husband beats you up? No. Have you been married before? Yes. Did your previous husband ever beat you up? Yes. When is the last time you saw your previous husband? Oh, approximately 3.5 years ago, when you lived in Arizona. Strike that. Withdraw that, if I may. What were, again, the ages that you lived in Arizona from the time I was either 7 or 8 until I was 13? During that time, did you have a weapon of any sort? No. Where did you live in Arizona during that time? Phoenix. And when did you next return to Arizona? When I was 21 or 22. How long did you stay there? Until 3-4 years ago. All right. Did you have a weapon of any sort at that time? No. Were you married to Mr. Baker at the time? No. Had you met Mr. Baker at the time? No. Now, you received an injury. You testified prior to the events of December 4. Is that correct? Yes. And what was the cause of that injury? A fall. And what part of your body was injured? The head and neck and back. Did that injury cause any bruises on your face? No. Are the injuries that are depicted in these photographs a result of that prior fall? No. Did you lie about your age on the job application? Yes. While you were struggling inside the apartment, did you ever succeed in getting through to the police? Yes. And did you give them your phone number? I object to that as being leading and suggestive, Your Honor. Well, overruled. Yes. Did you give them the address? Same objection, Your Honor. May we approach the bench, please? Very well. I want to accuse counsel of deliberate misconduct in front of this jury. He's well aware of the problem about the phone call. I have the sheriff's records under subpoena, and he's well aware of my position on that. He has a dispatch report here which shows that there was a dispatch made to the name and address, but I intend to show that my client's represented as well was calling the police, and he's trying by leading in direct questions. That's what he's doing by talking to me privately, and I think it's a completely improper approach to this matter, Your Honor, leading the witness under these circumstances. I don't know about anything that's going on between counsel. I just don't see anything objectionable about the question. It's difficult for me to understand how you and he have talked to each other. He's leading his own question. He's answering yes or no. I understand that, but this has been pretty well inquired into by you, and with reference to what happened at the time of striking and what she was doing at the time, he's apparently just asking a question as to whether or not she gave an address, not what address or what was said. Question by plaintiff's attorney. When you got through to the police on your phone, what did you tell them? I told them there was a man there with a gun, that he was going to kill us and to get the police there. Did you give them any other information? Yes, they asked me my telephone number and the address. What number did you give them? My phone number. What is your phone number? If I'm not mistaken, it was 676-2988. Is that the number that you testified to in response to counsel's questions yesterday? Yes. And was that number in your name? Yes. And where was that phone located? In the living room. Is that the office phone for the motel? No. Very well. All right. I'll take the recess at this time, ladies and gentlemen. I'll ask you to remember not to discuss the facts of the case among yourselves or with anyone else, and above all, not form or express any opinion on any of the facts that you've heard. Excuse you at this time for 15 minutes if you wish to go downstairs. All right, proceed. I have no further questions, Your Honor. I'm sorry, I just have a few questions on recross. Now, after December 4, you saw a doctor. When was the next time after that time you saw a doctor? I don't know. In relation to when these pictures were taken, can you give us any idea? No. Was it a week or 2 weeks or a month? I really don't know. Now, can you give us any idea what time of the day or night it was that you fell, November 19th or November 18th? In the morning. Objection. It's outside the scope of the redirect. Sustained. I'd like to just reopen for that limited purpose, Your Honor. Offer an objection. It's irrelevant. What do you intend to go into at this time? Injuries, bruises, pardon, what? Are you trying to go into injuries or bruises? No, I'm trying to go into well, I don't want to argue in front of the jury, Your Honor, but it's for a limited purpose. I want to ask at what time she fell, Your Honor. It's because I'll allow that overruled. What time was it? And between, I would think, from 9 to 10:30 in the morning. And that was on a Sunday morning of November 18th. Yes, thank you. Now, I believe you stated before that you talked to Rita Ross, the maid that works on the premises, did you not? I've talked to her. Pardon? I've talked to her. Now, isn't it a fact that you told Rita that Roger had been a male prostitute? Objection. Well, now, Your Honor, he's opened this up, and I'd like to sustained. Pardon? Sustained. May I approach the bench? Very well. I submit, Your Honor, this is the sort of rebuttal that counsel has invited himself by his own questions. Like which questions? He's asked her on redirect that she was happily married to Roger, and she still may be happy even if, suppose he is a male prostitute, he may still be happy. I didn't ask her that, Your Honor. I asked her if her husband had beaten her up in regard to the injuries in the pictures. I am coming to that, counsel. I want to ask specific instances as to whether or not she told somebody, made statements about his treatment of her, because I intend to produce that witness to impeach her. Well, of course, you could ask questions about whether or not she told this woman that. No, not about any male prostitution, but about whether he beat her up, and I think you asked that. I think you did. Anyway, I'd like to lay the foundation. Sustained. Mrs. Baker, I'll ask you if it isn't a fact that you told Rita that you and Roger got into a lot of battles and that there wasn't a weekend that you didn't have a fight. No. I'll ask you if it isn't a fact that at or about the hour of 10 o'clock on October 18th, that's a Sunday, that you were in the apartment area. We're talking about there where you lived. You had a talk with Rita, and at that time you were crying, and you told Rita that Roger had beaten you up. No. I'll ask you if it isn't a fact that you also told Rita that he had knocked you down and even